Have you ever looked into your child's eyes and suddenly felt like something was off? Like a puzzle that doesn't fit, but you can't figure out which piece doesn't belong? Well, I can definitely say I've felt that. My name is Tom, I'm 38, and I have a daughter, Lily. She's 6, and I always thought she was the center of my world. You know, that little person who grabs your hand, looks up at you with big eyes and believes you can do anything. But one ordinary evening, while my wife and I were watching TV, something happened that threw me off balance. Lily was running around the house playing with her teddy bear and suddenly burst into laughter. That was the moment it hit me like a jolt of electricity. That laugh, it wasn't mine. Don't get me wrong, laughter isn't exactly a genetic trait, but there was nothing in it from me or my wife, Sarah. It was a strange, high-pitched sound, like it had been ripped from someone else's DNA. I forced myself to ignore it. All kids are different, right? But then there were other little things. The shape of her ears, the texture of her hair, even small habits that neither I nor Sarah had. I tried to push these thoughts away, but they clung to me like burrs. And then the thought crept in, the one no father wants to face. What if Lily isn't mine? I tried to calm down, honestly, to convince myself I was just being paranoid. I mean, seriously, who in their right mind looks at their 6-year-old and thinks, what if they mixed her up at the hospital? But the more I looked at Lily, the more things didn't add up. She has brown eyes, while Sarah and I both have blue. It's not impossible, but damn rare. She's left-handed, and as far as I know, everyone in our family is right-handed. And she hates peanut butter. In our family, that's basically a crime. I Googled how likely it is for 2 blue-eyed parents to have a brown-eyed child. The answer, it's possible, but the odds are tiny. Okay, I'm not a science guy, but that was enough to fuel my anxiety. I decided to act cautiously. That evening, while Sarah was tucking Lily into bed, I went into the bathroom, grabbed Sarah's hairbrush, Lily's brush, and my own. Put them in a plastic bag. Yeah, I probably already looked like a complete psycho at that point. But deep down, I knew I needed a DNA test. The next day, I took the day off, drove to a lab, and handed over the samples. The guy at the reception desk gave me a look like I wasn't the first dad with this kind of request. When will the results be ready? I asked, hoping they'd say an hour, so I wouldn't have to suffer through this agony for long. About a week, he replied, lazily typing on his keyboard. A week. A whole freaking week. From that moment on, I had 7 long days ahead, filled with doubts, paranoia, and possibly the most painful truth of my life. If you've ever waited for DNA test results, knowing your entire life depends on them, you understand. It's not just a week. It's real-time hell. Every day I convinced myself I was overreacting, but then I'd catch Lily doing something odd, and my brain would flip back into detective mode. On Tuesday, at breakfast, she picked up a pancake and cut it with a knife and fork. Have you ever heard of a 6-year-old who eats a pancake with a knife and fork? On Wednesday, she drew a picture of herself, Sarah, and that's it. I looked at the drawing, trying to keep my voice steady, and asked, "Where's Daddy, sweetie?" "Oh." She giggled and added a weird little guy in the corner who looked more like a potato with eyes. On Thursday, Sarah noticed I was acting strange. "Tom, are you okay?" she asked, sitting next to me on the couch. "You've seemed lost lately." "Just tired. Work's stressful," I lied. I couldn't just blurt out, "Hey, Sarah, did you happen to cheat on me 6 years ago?" And then, just as I was on the brink of a nervous breakdown, Friday arrived. I was sitting at work, staring at my screen when a notification popped up on my phone. "Your DNA test results are ready." I felt my heart drop straight into my stomach. At that moment, I realized my life was about to change. Maybe forever. I sat in my office, clutching my phone like it was the last thread holding my sanity together. My hands were shaking. My breathing was ragged. I opened the email. Probability of biological paternity. 0.00%. I reread that line 10 times, then 10 more, but the letters didn't change. The numbers didn't shift. Reality remained reality. Lily is not my daughter. Something inside me clenched. Not just clenched. It felt like someone had reached into my chest, grabbed my heart, and twisted it inside out. I felt like an idiot. No, not just an idiot. The biggest fool on the planet. 6 years. 6 freaking years I raised someone else's child, thinking she was my flesh and blood. I changed her diapers, took her to doctors, taught her to ride a bike, told her bedtime stories. And the whole time, I was being played for a fool. I closed my eyes and took a deeper. I sat in my car in front of the house, staring through the windshield like the answer to my whole damn life was written there. Lily isn't mine. Fact. But if I'm not her father, then who is? My fingers moved on their own, opening the photo album on my phone. I scrolled through old pictures. There's Sarah in the hospital, smiling, cradling a tiny bundle. There's me, holding Lily for the first time. Hell, we even had a family photo shoot where we wore matching ridiculous pajamas. I had never felt so betrayed. I took a deep breath and got out of the car. Time to play detective. Interrogation number 1. Sarah. I walked into the house. Sarah was sitting in the kitchen, sipping tea and scrolling through her phone. "Hey," she said without even looking up. "We need to talk," I said, my voice eerily calm for someone whose brain was about to explode. She looked up and frowned. "Tom, what's wrong?" I sat across from her, clenched my fists to keep them from shaking, and said, "I did a DNA test." In that second, I saw it. Her face changed. It was just a fraction of a moment, but I caught it. A flicker of something between panic and guilt? She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. "Tom, Lily's not mine." I said it flatly without yelling, just a statement of fact. Sarah went pale. Silence. Deafening silence. I could hear my blood pounding in my temples. "Who is he?" I asked, staring straight into her eyes. Sarah swallowed hard. "Tom, it's not what you think." I slammed my fist on the table, making her teacup jump. "Who the hell is he?" And then she finally said a name. I froze. I was not expecting that. When Sarah said the name, it felt like a firecracker went off in my head. "Mark." I blinked. "Mark? Mark? For fixé, biaz sake?" Mark was my friend. My best friend. We'd known each other for over 10 years. Worked together. Drank together. I was even the best man at his wedding. "You're joking," I said, my voice almost calm. Almost. Sarah wasn't joking. "Tom, it was just one time. A long time ago. Before we got married. I didn't know who Lily's father was." "You didn't know?" I shot to my feet. "You didn't even try to find out?" "I didn't want to ruin our family," she whispered. Unbelievable. So I was the one ruining everything now? I paced the kitchen, clutching my head. Memories flashed before my eyes. Mark, always looking at Lily with something in his eyes. Mark, always saying, "She's a miracle, Tom." Mark, always around, too often. I had been a blind idiot. Sarah was crying. I saw her shaking. But I didn't care. "Did you tell him?" I asked, my voice now ice cold. She shook her head. "So you decided it's better if two idiots live in ignorance while you just hope Lily looks enough like me?" She sobbed. "Tom, I loved you. I love you. I didn't want—" I raised my hand to silence her. I needed to see Mark. Now I sat in my car in front of Mark's house, trying not to smash the steering wheel to pieces. My head was buzzing. My chest felt tight. Mark, my best friend, the father of my daughter. I got out of the car and walked to the door. No hesitation, I was on autopilot. Mark opened the door himself. He smiled, but when he saw my face, his expression darkened. "Tom? We need to talk." He understood immediately that it was serious and let me in without a word. We sat in the living room. "Did you know?" I asked flatly, no emotion in my voice. Mark frowned. "No what?" "About Lily." He tensed up. "What about Lily?" "She's not mine." I paused. "She's yours." Dead silence. Mark stared at me without blinking. I'd never seen him like this. What?" he whispered. "You heard me, buddy. I did a DNA test. Lily's not mine. So here's the question. Did you know?" "No," he breathed, and I believed him. There was raw, undeniable shock in his eyes. I watched as the information shattered his world. He stood up, running his hand over his face. Shit. He paced back and forth. "Did Sarah told you?" "Yes." He collapsed back onto the couch. "Oh, God." "Start talking," I demanded. He closed his eyes. "It was one time. We were drunk. I had no idea she could be my kid." I clenched my fists. "You fucked my future wife." "I didn't know, Tom. I swear. If I had known. And what would you have done?" Silence. I could feel my heart slowly tearing apart. "She's like a daughter to me," he muttered. "She always has been. But I never even imagined." "Welcome to my hell," I said with a bitter smirk. Mark looked like he'd been punched in the gut. We both sat in silence. What now? We sat across from each other like two idiots whose lives had just been blown to pieces. Mark looked like he'd been hit by a truck. I probably looked worse. "Tom." His voice was quiet. "What are you going to do?" Honestly, I had no idea. Part of me wanted to forget all of it. Just erase Mark, Sarah, this whole situation and go back to living like before. But another part, a darker, angrier part, wanted blood, wanted to destroy. I stood up. "I don't know, Mark," I said, looking him straight in the eyes. "But I know one thing for sure. You're not my friend anymore." His face twisted in pain, but I didn't care. I turned around and walked out. When I got home, Sarah was waiting. Red eyes, guilty face. "Tom, please." I raised my hand. "I don't want to hear another word." She swallowed hard. "Are you going to leave?" Good question. I looked at the stairs leading to Lily's room. My number. Not my daughter. But damn it, I'd been her father for 6 years. That doesn't just disappear. "I'm staying for Lily," I said, "but we're done." Sarah closed her eyes. I felt nothing. No pity, no regret. I went upstairs and peeked into Lily's room. She was asleep, curled up with her teddy bear. It's not her fault, and I'd be there for her. But Sarah? Never again. "Sleep tight, sweetheart," I whispered, closing the door.